Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Liulay nishmas Eli Mordechi. I apologize. We're having again printer issues. One day we'll have that resolved. Liulay nishmas Hakadosh Aaron Yosef ben Hananya. If you look closely at the sign, you'll see a tiny little name. The sponsor requested that his name should be tiny, so Amelia Bedelia, I did it mamish like he requested. Shlomi Klein, the anonymous Shlomi Klein. Liulay nishmas Hakadosh Aaron Yosef ben Hananya Sinai David liyoim ha-27 yourtzeit Hashem yinkom domoy. 27 years ago. That must have been something in Crown Heights, that maybe that thing. I don't know. What was 27 years ago? There was a murder there, no? Yeah. What? That's what it was, the 16-year-old kid. Efrayim Jaffe, Liulay nishmas, my mother, Simo Bas Elyo Melech. On her second yahrtzeit, and Shama should have an aliyah. Sponsored anonymously by Chaim of the 5 towns, Tehillim Needed. A name has been added to Josh Skirnek of Josh's Pizza. Nobody told me if that's the guy. I think I had many schmoozes with that guy. If it's him, please daven for Chaim, yehoshua, aryeh ben masha. He's taking a bad turn. He's on a ventilator for oxygen. He needs more tfillos. For Shlema. Liulay nishmat Avi Umari Mordechi Yosef ben Ahren. I apologize. A very, very weak printouts today. Yeah, it's a whole. In observance of my father's 41st yahrtzeit. Somebody remind me, during davening, I have to say Kaddish for his father. I hope to remember. By his children, Beverly Fink, Dr. Listhaus, Dr. Michelle Nordlicht, and Dr. Cindy Dobrinsky. I'm still afraid of him. Nothing like fear to motivate us to achieving success. Even in the most dire, it's yahrtzeit, in the middle of the thing. There's a little bit of a leitzonos there from Dr. Listhaus. You can always count on him for a shtickle. Yesterday was the big wedding of Avi Sherman. And of course, as usual, the oilam from the mishpacha came to visit. Here's Uncle Phil at the wedding. This is Ben Schwartz. Came in all the way from the 5 towns to Teaneck. It's quite a hike. Mark Ashkenazi. Sishkoyach. I was watching yesterday. This is from Michael Mann. Michal. We'll call him Michal Mann. I was watching yesterday's daf on YouTube when you told over the story of a man who went to Reb Chaim asking for bracha to have children. I've always been good with faces and totally recognized Aaron Levi. In addition to being a Hatzalah Misaskim member, he is a driver in Eretz Yisrael. My son introduced me to him years ago when I visited. Somewhere along the way, Aaron mentioned he didn't have any children. As soon as you said the man had a baby girl, I went to check his status on WhatsApp. And sure enough, there was a Mazel Tov message with a picture of his hospital bracelet. I texted him, of course, and told him how I found out he had a baby. Hoidul Hashem ki tov. Thanks for sharing. Michael Mann. So, I'm reading it just, there's somebody's testifying to the fact that it actually happened. The guy had a baby on Shabbos. Jack Aaron House. Hi, Rebelli. First, let me thank you very much for learning the daf with all of us around the globe while exhibiting your sense of humor, sincerity, and overall great personality. When I completed 4 years in TELS, Rabbi Yosef, I went back home to Cincinnati where my parents lived. I hung around. Listen, this is part of this year. And this is chazar on this. Okay. I hung around a few months and quickly realized this is not my place anymore. So I got on a Greyhound bus and came back to New York. But Kitzer, I knew, but this is a long one, so I got to go through it. I'll test you on the hard parts, on the interesting part. I knew no one but one friend in Rockaway who introduced me to Rav Gusman at his yeshiva in Crown Heights. He gave me a bechina and asked me if I had a place to stay. I told him I did not. He suggested that I move into one of the apartments upstairs above the yeshiva. He also asked me if I have a place to eat during the week, and I told him no. He said, okay, go to the Beis Medrash and begin to learn. 2 hours later, he calls me into the office, sits me down, and gave him the different names of families. On Sundays, the Cohens, Mondays, the Fines, etc. Thursday, I was on my own. Shabbos evening, I ate by the Chates. And Shabbos lunch at the Weiss family in East Flatbush. Somewhat of a walk, but who cared? This is based on that story that I said with what they did in Europe. I was totally speechless. And he saw it, so he came around his desk and put his arm around my shoulder and said, don't worry, you'll be fine here. Later, the Rav got me a part-time teaching job at some yeshiva teaching 6th grade. Thanks again for getting me back to Gemara. Regards, Yaakov Yitzchak, Aaron House. So basically, back in the day, they didn't have, Thursday you're on your own, Tuesday you're on, what did you come to yeshiva? That was the line. You came to yeshiva to eat or to learn. Figure it out yourself. Today, Rabbi Yisai's Daf Kuv Zayin. And we are holding, like 9 lines down, brand new sugya. I do want to mention that now that Yeshua Aaron Price is back, we have to say a tremendous ishkayach to Mordechai Seltzer for stepping it up. It was almost 2 months of serving coffee and doing all the stuff, forgetting every day to bring me water, etc. The signs, and his brother Nehemiah Seltzer, ishkayach to the two, and welcome back Yeshua. Says the Gemara, today is the sugya of Chamar Medina, famous Chamar Medina, the wine of that particular country or city. What does it mean? What does it include? Says the Gemara, Amrele Mar Yenuka Umar Keshisha Bereder Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda had 2 sons. One was called Mar Yenuka, the young one, Umar Keshisha, the elder one. So that's the simple pshat. That's how most people learn. However, there's a Tyson Babashir of Amud Beis that says it's the reverse. That when Rav Chisda was older, he had a son, so his name was Mar Keshisha. So in fact, that son was younger. We like the interesting stuff, right? As I say, Tysus. Huh? Tysus switched it around. Mar Yenuga Mar Keshisha Bereder Rav Chisda Rav Ashi. Zimna Chada Ikla Amei Mar La Asrin. What? That's why Mar Yenuka comes first. So it's a dig. That's why Tysus is medayik that, although most people don't learn pshat like that, but nice. I like that, Rabbi Schoenberg. Mar Yenuka comes first because Mar Yenuka is actually the older one. Zimna Chada, it once happened, Ikla Ameimar La Asrin, the saying over the story. Ameimar showed up. V'lo yahav elon chamra, we didn't have a wine. It's Havdalah. What do? I seen Eli Shichra, so he brought him some beer, date beer, shvacha stuff. V'loi avdil, and he didn't make Havdalah. Somebody remind Yeshua if he could bring another 5 of these. He went, but he forgot to come back. Shkoyach. I seen Eli Shichra v'loi avdil, he refused to make Havdalah on it. Says the Gemara, very interesting lashon. Uvas tevas. Uvas tevas. It's a pasuk in Daniel. It means he went to sleep when he's betzar. He was starving. Tremendous ma'isa. He didn't have Havdalah, so he refused to eat. He went to sleep starving. Lemachar, the following morning, tarachna, we searched, we looked high and low. Va'isina lechamra, seemed to be, it's not like you could just go to your neighbor and get wine. It was a big deal. And they found wine. Va'avdil. When did he make Havdalah? The following morning. Utay midi. And then he ate. L'shana. Next year, to ikla la'asrin. He shows up again. Ameimar, big guest. Lo yahav elon chamra. They didn't learn the lesson. They forgot Havdalah. They didn't have wine. I seen a shichra. So they bring the beer. Omar, Yehochi, if this is what they're doing year after year, Chamar Medina. And here's the concept. Chamar Medina. This is the wine of the Medina. Not of Eretz Yisrael, of Israel, but of that city. But that's not what it means. Medina means the city, the place. Yeah. Shkoyach. What do you got here? Okay. Avdil v'toyim midi. So he made Havdalah on the Chamar Medina, on the beer, and he ate. Shmamino. You see from this story, class, 3 things. Shmamino, hamavdil b'tfilot tzorch sheyavdil alakois. It's obvious that Ameimar went to Ma'ariv like a good Jew, and he davened Ma'ariv with Atoch and Antonu, and he said Havdalah in Shmoneh Esrei. So why did he insist on having another Havdalah with a cup of wine? And not only that, he went to sleep hungry because he held that it's not enough. Shmoneh Esrei. It's asur for a person to eat before you make Havdalah. To the point where we went to bed, bas tavas, starving. Mi shelo yivdil b'motzi Shabbos, mavdil v'hoylech kol haShabbos kuloi. What do you see? When did he make Havdalah? He made Havdalah the next morning. What does the Gemara say? You see from here that you can make Havdalah all the way to Wednesday. So the Rashbam points it out and he says, that's the halacha. Yeah. We could only come to a conclusion that you can make Havdalah on Sunday. Like the second Lashon and Rava that we had yesterday as we're finishing Shir. But that's not the halacha. The halacha is you can make Havdalah all the way to Wednesday, so we're going to stick it in as Shema Mino. That's not, you can't really come to the conclusion from the story, but we're going to stick it in as the halacha. What about the fact that you see from here that you can make Havdalah on Chamar Medina? It's a huge chiddush. You can make Havdalah on beer, or whatever Chamar Medina is. Says the Rashbam, no. Either it was Pashut, you're not going to push off Havdalah if you don't have something else, or it's not really from the Seder of Havdalah. We're talking about, I see it in the Rashbam. But okay. You see it in Tais, I see it in the Rashbam. Rashbam comes first. Yeah. So, anyway, I'll prove it to you. The Rashbam says, what I just said is the second pshat in the Rashbam. Anyway, great. So what's going on here with the Chamar Medina? So, there's many halachas here. Let's go through them. And I'm going to tell you some halachas, and then we're going to play a game, the Chamar Medina game. I'm going to show you some foods, and you're going to tell me what you think, some drinks. Tell me if these are halachically Chamar Medina or not. First of all, it's better to make Havdalah on Yayin Pogum. If you have wine that you drink from a little bit and it's Pogum, and we said you're not supposed to make a bracha of a mitzvah on it, it's better to make it on that kind of wine than on Chamar Medina. So, Chamar means wine. So wine is number one. Sometimes you have a wine of the Medina. It could be the beer, it could be whatever that drink is of that Medina. It's so popular. So let's see what the halachas are. Motzei Pesach, for instance, the Ramah brings that the minhag was to make Havdalah on beer. Everybody would make on beer. But that's because beer was Chamar Medina in those days. People drank it a lot. It was very popular. And to show the chavivos of the mitzvah. How much they say about the Vilna Gaon that he also did on beer because he wanted to show that it was hard for him to keep chametz. And as soon as he had the ability to eat chametz, he ate chametz. And beer is chametz. Fine. Huh? Ooh. The Mishnah Berurah doesn't bring that, but okay.
Otherwise you wouldn't have it. That's what it is.
Maybe you bought it from a Goyish store. Yeah, Matziyant. Ran, got it. Why not? Why not? For the mitzvah. I just read a story this morning about the guy running somewhere. Oh, yeah, this guy sent me an email. I'll tell you the story. Why not? Because you're saying the guy ran somewhere? Yeah. Somebody came once to the guy to ask him about a piece of meat, if it was treif. He said treif. And the guy didn't get an answer back quick enough, so he sent his kid to the Rav of Vilna. And the Rav of Vilna said the meat is kosher. So they went back to the Rav. They said, but the Vilna guy said, he says, I'm the Rav. I'm telling you right now, you must cook this meat and make it for Shabbos. So the guy went nuts. He's like, what? So he goes to the Vilna guy. So the Rav went to the Vilna guy and said, listen, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to come to this guy's house, sit down at the Shabbos table, and eat the meat that you said is treif, so that people should respect me in the city. And the Vilna guy ran there. Didn't say ran. He got up and went there. He sat down at the table. And the masha is, the Chassidim are going to laugh at me for saying this, the masha is that right before they were able to eat, a piece of chaylev from the lamp fell onto the meat, and therefore the Rav, nobody could eat it, and that was the end of the story. Fine. That was to the mice that we said yesterday that the guy, but these mices.
Question for you, I guess, about Kiddush. The girl only said word for off, and I checked into it. That was it.
Yeah?
We had a just word for
Okay. The guy only said word for
you're a girl guy.
Okay, so we're doing tshuva this week. Only by it's much easier. Okay. Now, when it comes to Chamar Medina, the Mishnah Berurah talks about how there's no other wine in the city, there's nothing going on, there's no other drinks, and if there's no wine, then you have Chamar Medina. So he makes a little bit of a trick. If there's no wine, again, if there's no wine available, and they say even if wine is very expensive, that's considered available. So there's no such thing as Chamar Medina. If you have wine, like today, we have wine in the store, there's no Chamar Medina. However, you see from other Achronim that there's something else. And it's more like something that you serve at a wedding, at a simcha, on the table. Do people serve? So here, let's go. I have a bunch of stuff here I brought. I'm going to go one by one here. Oh. Some of them are tricky. They serve this at a wedding. Water on the table. Is this Chamar Medina? No. Everybody agrees. No. No matter what. There's no machloikis in this. No. Okay, fine. No.
Why not? Explain why not. Why not?
This is not a chosh. This is not a chosh thing. What about tea? Rabbi say tea. Anybody? Noam. Tea.
Depends which country. Some countries, that tea is very costly.
It's a no. Hold on a second. We're getting there. I got a tricky one. No.
Hello, in certain countries.
What about this? This is choshev, by the way. This is very choshev. To get Dr. Pepper in Eretz Yisrael, Yekara Metzias. Chamar Medina, not Chamar Medina. No. Okay, good. So far, everybody's on thing.
Yes.
Cafe Bustela, coffee. Mordechai, any cafe. Mordechai Seltzer says yes. Anybody else? Yes. Shimon says yes. Who else? Nachman says no. So anybody want to argue with him? Because usually he says no. Menachem says yes. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says this is something you serve. You serve it at restaurants. You serve it at a chasana. They just go around serving hot coffee. It is Chamar Medina if it's hot. No. Any coffee. Cafe Bustela. With milk, it doesn't make it there. You shouldn't drink milk at a chassan after you drink fleishiks. You're right.
It depends which kind of coffee it is.
What about this?
Yes.
So I forgot to put another sticker on here. It's a big machlokes. Most say no. The Chazon Ish says no. When was the last time you went to a wedding and they served beer on the table? When? When they served beer on the table? They used to.
Last time I went to a wedding, they served coffee on the table.
I'm going with no. Rapicha Schreiber says, I don't want weddings by me. I went to more weddings than you, my friend. I used to go 2 weddings a night.
You're a caterer. How many
That's
times
right.
do you serve coffee at a wedding?
How about orange juice?
Yes. If it's Tropicana.
If it's Tropicana. Is this orange juice? Rabbi say orange juice. Real quick, we got to finish the sugya.
A lot of people say yes.
Who drinks orange juice at a wedding? Everybody. But it doesn't have to be a wedding. A bris. Bris, everybody drinks orange juice. This is Chamar Medina, according to Rabbi Yashiv, according to all the... Yeah. I know. Chazon Ish says it's Chamar Medina, but he says that beer is not. So, okay, you have a problem with Chazon Ish. By the way, going back to tea, Rav Moshe Feinstein says that b'shas atchak gadol, you could do tea. B'shas atchak gadol. That means if you're English and you're atchak gadol in Manchester, Rav Shlomo is shaking his head. He knows what I'm talking about. Okay. So beer, we did everything. What about milk?
What about Coca-Cola?
Milk? This is Coke. Milk, no. All right. We get rid of this stuff. Oh, this is a terrible one. I don't know if I should bring this out. What is this? Chamar Medina or not? Dr. Epstein says yes. Do they serve this at weddings? Not at the bar, at the wedding, at the table. So you have this on the table? No. I couldn't find anybody that says that this is Chamar Medina. I'm sorry to all those who make Kiddush in the morning. Now, I will say, by the way, we're talking about Havdalah here. Havdalah. Kiddush is a whole different story. Kiddush, the halacha is, the Mishabura says, if a person loves whiskey, he loves it, then he can make Kiddush on whiskey lechatchila. This is the Mishnah Berurah. Now you have to understand, everything is based on the generation. The Chazon Ish lived 40 years ago. It's 40 years ago. The Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim lived in Europe. It was different what they had there. They didn't even know what Coca-Cola was. They didn't know what orange. Different things, different places. Maybe Vatkas, Chamar Medina in Russia. Who knows? If that's what people drink and they live on that, that's that. But he says, I just want to point out, the Mishnah Berurah says, Chavetz Chaim says that if somebody's going to use this for Kiddush, he must make sure that he's using a cup of a revius. And he drinks Meloy Lugmav. He has to drink a Roiv Revius. Can't just do those little shot glasses. I don't know where that minute came from. Little shot. Now, it also, if you don't have wine. If you have wine, what's the heter to use Chamar Medina? It's very, very difficult to use this for Kiddush morning. You see it all the time at Kiddush. They'll see the wine there and they bedafka, they go to Sha'akal. We have to be Melamed Schus. Huh? You'll drink it afterwards.
This morning, it's not Kiddush.
This morning, it's not Kiddush.
Oh, Kiddush Mokum Suda, you mean? No. You have to do Kiddush. Zochazim Shabbos, the Kachoy, Yomi Shabbos. Yeah. No. Wait, bro, but you don't say Kiddush, but it is Kiddush. Anyway. Hold on. Let's leave this here.
Eli, don't forget to take the X off and then live.
Nobody will be afraid to drink and live. Okay, fine. Zok the Gemara. Where are we holding? We got a few minutes left. Okay. Zog the Heilige Gemara. Do we finish? I just want to know if we finished all these halachas. A lot of halachas. I just want to say I'm going through my notes here. This is a big note. There's a big blue note. I'll just show you what it looks like here. It's not your typical note. Okay, fine. But you hear the idea that if you bring it to the Suda, you don't, that's Rav Liyashiv. Okay. Zog the Gemara. Boy minei Rav Huna mirav Chizda. Rav Huna asked Rav Chizda. Now the Kadusha Shichra. You don't have wine, could you make Kiddush on beer? We'll learn like that. Omar. Not everybody learns like that, but let's learn like that. You don't have wine, so could I use beer? Beer. Here, we have beer. Why not? Bring it out. It says on the bottom, I noticed my son's name here, so nobody take this. Omar Hashto. I was wondering why I found this. Like nobody touched this. Oma Pirzuma Ute'ene Ve'asne. These are types of beers. Beer is made out of barley, the good stuff. And beer made out of figs. And beer made out of berries. Look at Rashi for a second. This is like a corny joke, but look at Rashi. Ve'asne. Shoisim Sheicham Reprisne Kigoin Tutim. So there was a tutim are berries. Every time I see that word, I crack up inside because this Ashkenazi guy goes to a Sephardi shul, and he's saying Eila v'recha ve'eila basusim, and these are the horses. So he tried to be a Sephardi. He goes Eila v'recha ve'eila batutim. All right, fine. You also thought it was a little interesting. Okay, cool. No, because it happens. You know, these guys are trying, or like the Sephardi tries to be Ashkenazi, is like all messed up. On the samach he says it, whatever. Okay. It's just interesting that the Ashkenazi, when he comes to the Sephardi, he tries to fit in. The Sephardi never, if you notice, he'll never try to fit in. He comes to the Ashkenazi, he always says, hello, you're an Ashkenazi shul. What are you doing here? No. Okay, fine. Anyways. Zog the Gemara, the boy minei, mirav, I'm waiting for the emails. You missed a few words. Chaim, okay. And they say, Yatzmach bukonei v'kayim shecheh, whatever. It's like, hello, Ashkenaz, weiter. The boy minei mirav, Rebbe. There's a question. They asked Rav, and Rav asked Rebbe, and Rebbe asked Rebbe. V'loi pashatle. He didn't know if you can make Kiddush on the premium beer, the Prizuma, the one from barley. Shichrim and Baya, the one that's made out of the shvacha dates that you're going to make kiddush on. Savar mino kiddushehu d'lei mikachinin lelevei. We're done with that. That was a 1 minute idea. Savar mino kiddushehu d'lei mikachinin lelevei avdulim avdulim. Okay, you can't make kiddush, but maybe you can make havdalah, which is lighter. By the way, there's a quick halacha that I noticed. I thought it's very important. Kiddush you can make on bread. Havdalah you cannot make on bread. So when you make kiddush on bread, it could happen you get stuck and it simmers somewhere without wine. You forget to bring the wine. Now you make kiddush on bread. What do? There's an interesting halacha. You have to hold the bread like you hold a cup of wine. The entire kiddush, you hold it. Just remember that. I don't want any emails in 2 months from now. Oh, by the way, I got stuck and I remembered the halacha. Okay, great. Don't get stuck. Remember to bring wine. So you cannot make avdallah on Chamar Medina. But we just learned, Amir says you could. Kishem says Shmuel. Kishem shem mekachin olav kach im avdilim olav. Again, so Rav and Shmuel both hold you don't do kiddush avdallah on Chamar Medina on beer. Levi shadar leile Rebbe. Levi asked Rebbe, Shichra bart leisamigone. They made this beer. What is it called? The 13 giraffes. They have it. What is it called? No, the beer goes through 10. They had it in those days. Filters. 13 filters. Cold filters. Budweiser. They invented it in those days. This was 13 filters. In other words, they used 13 dates, 13 batches of dates. It went through once, then they took the water, put it through another type of date, another type, or another batch, 13 times. Says the Gemara, Tami tasted it, have a basam tuva. It was amazing. Omar, Kigoin Zed, this is so beautiful. Royal Kaddish olav, you could even make kiddush on this. V'loyim olav kol shirois v'sushbachai sheba'olam. You could say anything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves this stuff. It's great. It's a covet for the Rebbeinu Shalom. Says the Gemara, B'leili tzarei. All of a sudden, stomach ache. When do we have this? Daf Peiches. We had, I forgot who it was, that said that the people of Bavel, how could they? Who was it? They have so many of these tmarim and dates. They should be able to learn Torah berevach. So he ate a ton of it, and then he was in the bathroom the whole night. He said, "Oh, there's such tzaddikim. They have such stomach aches, and they still learn Torah." Okay, so B'leila tzarei Omar miyasron umefayes. So we have here two pshatim. Rashi says we have Rashi and his grandson, the Rashbam. Rashi says mitzarim b'shas shtiyo mefaysenhein. So Rashi is learning that it gets you, it draws you in, it looks so good, it smells so good, and it tastes so good. It's like me eating pizza. I know that if I eat it, 3 hours later I'm done, finished. But how could you a cheese Danish? I'm not gonna, and then you suffer afterwards. The same thing here. You have tsar now, mefayis later. The Rashbam learns, how could you use something that puts you in the bathroom and say a shvach to Rebbeinu Shalom? You're going to say a brach on it? You're going to say kiddush on it? It's impossible. What? No. Diarrhea I'm talking about. I didn't want to say it. You're asking the question. This is Rafkamina. If something makes you sick, that's not something you make kiddush on. Zok Gemara, Omar, Miyasrim Faiz. Omar Rav Yosef. Edor berabim deloi eshti shichra. What am I going to do? I'm going to get up in public and make a neder. And once I get up in public and make a neder, I'll never be able to drink this again. Similar to that idea, I thought I invented it. Here it's in the Gemara. You make a neder, you say, if I break my diet, $1,000 to tzedakah that I hate. Somebody just told me yesterday, and he's a pretty wealthy guy. He said, for me, I have the same exact tsar as your 1,000, 3 shekel. 3 shekel does the trick. I believe him. Mendy also believes him. 3 shekel. He has such tsar. I believe him. But everybody on their level. But anyways, you make a neder. Taisus points out that a neder that you do in public, and you go like this, you say, Rabbi, say right here, I make a neder, it doesn't work. It's only al das rabbim. You have to have the mind of the rabbim, then the neder works. La lacha. Amar Rava ishti mei zoryan, I'll drink the water of the flax. In other words, I'll drink sur water. I'm not going to drink beer. Somebody who goes ahead and makes kiddush on beer, he'll be punished that he'll only be able to afford beer. He'll be poor. It's a midah keneged midah. It's probably in Reb Pessin's Sefer. Midah keneged midah, volume 6. I'm not kidding. He has like 6 volumes in the Sefer. At least 5. So, I have all of them. So if you're going to be, you're not going to spend money for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to take care of you. Zog the Gemara Rav, huh? Yeah. According to, is there anything here? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaroi. Ooh, no, not now. Rav Ashkechei Rav Huna the Kodesh HaShichra. It's a interesting lashon. If you look at it, you just read it simply, it doesn't flow so well. Rav Ashkechei Rav Huna. Rav Huna found Rav, the Kodesh HaShichra. It was Rav who was using beer for Kiddush. Amar lei, Shari Abba. Abba is a beautiful lashon of master, of Lemiknei Isterei Meshichra. It seems like you, Rav, who just got into the beer business, you're making a lot of money, and therefore it became beloved to you. You love it. It's not like it tastes good. It's your business. So obviously, if you're making good money off it, it became your chaviv. As we had the sugi with Rav earlier, yesterday, when was it? When Rav had, either would make kiddush on bread, would make kiddush on wine, depending on what he liked. He went with the chaviv. So beer is chaviv. According to Rav. And that, there was mamish chaviv. It went to the point of chavivos. Torah Rabbana. You cannot use beer. You only do kiddush on wine. I had a few texts and emails that people, since yesterday's story, they're going to wine for Havdalah. But over here it says also, kiddush, one should, if he can, make kiddush on wine, not on grape juice. And it says, and you don't make a bracha only on wine. It says Gemara, let's understand just the simple words. You have to make a bracha even on beer. It means don't do the kosher bracha with a bracha. Of course you have to make a shahakal on beer, but you don't make a kosher bracha on beer. You shouldn't make kiddush on beer. You could. We had the other day with the 8 chidushim from the Brisa that you have to, the halach is you must taste the kiddush. And I forgot to point out, the Rashbam on the spot over there says, you don't have to taste it. But somebody from, it's machlokes really, but the Rashbam holds that anybody listening to the bracha could do the tasting for you. But how much do you have to taste? It's a masha, just put it on your tongue. Which l'chayre means roiv revius. Most of your mouth, depending on how big you are, for instance, has a giant mouth, so it's much more, but the average human being is a roiv revius. So revius, if it's a revius, is 3 ounces, so 1.51 ounces roiv of the 3. If it's 5 ounces, you did the math. 251, whatever it is. Omar Ravuna, Omar Rav. V'chein tani Rav Gidol de Binorash. HaMekadesh v'tam miloi lugma yotza. So, anybody HaMekadesh v'tam miloi lugma yotza, you just tasted it, you're yotzeit v'imlav, lo yotza, you must taste, and if you don't taste, you're not yotzeit. You're on a diet and you say, I can't drink this, you're not yotzeit. Omar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, but again, the Rashbam says, somebody listening could taste it. I looked this up. All these names don't appear anywhere in Chas. Not Rav Gidol de Minorash, not Gidol bar Menashe, and not Gidol bar Yomi. Elo Gidol Stama. So he's saying, he doesn't have a surname, it's not Minorash. Gidol Stam. Just say his name is Gidol. What's the difference? If you could find anywhere else, which I couldn't find, anywhere else, a stira between Rav Gidol and Rav Gidol, so don't say, oh, this one is Rav Gidol bar Menashe, and this one is Rav Gidol de Menarsh. Gidol is Gidol. So you could ask a kasha. Samach lemincha. Oh, now for this you have to go all the way back to the beginning, the first Mishnah in Yomi Pesachim. Seems like a year ago. It says in the Mishnah that Erev Pesach you should not eat after mincha. Samach lemincha it says. Samach lemincha, close to mincha. So Samach lemincha we said is a half hour before, whenever mincha is. When's mincha? Ibaylu. Samach lemincha gdailatnan, Dilma samach lemincha ktana tanan. So here, this is the morning. 1 o'clock is the morning. That's when the sun comes out. 12 o'clock is when the sun goes down. So you have 12 hours. So this is chatzos right over here, the beginning of the 7th hour. 12 o'clock. Call it 12 o'clock. So mincha g'dayla is right over here, halfway through, not where the blue line is. 12:30 is when they brought the carbon tamid. So, are we referring to a half hour before that? In other words, 12 o'clock where the blue line is? Or are we referring to mincha ktana? And that is over here. 2.5 hours before Shkia, which is 3:30. 3.5 hours after Chatzos. And a half hour before that is 3 o'clock. So, 1, 2, 3, right over here. This is where you have to stop eating. Where do you stop eating? Over here or over here? At 12 o'clock you have to stop eating?
Stop or you can't start?
Stop. You can't eat. This is not Shabbos. This is Erev Pesach, where you have to come in, Toiv, or maybe there's another Indian going on over here. So what's the Shaila? Pesach, we're concerned that you might forget. So you have to stop all the way at 12 o'clock. Why? Because you might get so involved in your food, you might forget to bring your carbon Pesach. You might just get involved. Turning to Daf Yomi Beis, sponsored by Eli Dykman. Bracha v'atzlacha for all the MDY team. You also. And you, all you guys. Mordechai and Nechemi Seltzer. In their everyday lives, for all the hard avodas HaKodesh they do. And sponsored for Refuah Shleima for all the Chol Yisrael, especially from our MDY family. Please consider joining the MDY Tehillim group, tehillim.8mindaf.com. That includes also Josh from the pizza shop, because somebody sponsored for his Refuah. Zok the Gemara. You might come to forget to do a Korban Pesach. Maybe we're talking about all the way at 3 o'clock. That's when you have to stop. Samach. Mincha K'tana is 3:30. Samach means half hour before that. Umishum matzah. You have to come into the Seder starving. It's unbelievable. Mamish talking about the stuff. It's Negei L'maisa in a week and a half, 2 weeks. You might come to eat matzah when you're satiated, and that's not good. Omer Avinu Toshma. Afilu Agrippas HaMelech Shu Rogel Lecha B'Teisha Shois. Agrippas HaMelech eats his breakfast right over here at 9, right in here. That day, he shouldn't eat at 9 o'clock. Now, 9 o'clock is before, 9 o'clock is 2:30-ish. He eats breakfast at 2:30. So even him, he shouldn't eat breakfast at 2:30. Why? Because he might come to eat when it's also to eat, which is 3:30. 3 o'clock. He might go into 3 o'clock, not 3:30. Mincha K'tana is 3:30. You have to stop eating at 3 o'clock. So since he eats breakfast right here in the middle, he might come into here. That makes sense if it's over here. That's why you're talking about a king. Or even the king should not start his breakfast a half hour before the Zman. But if you're talking about 12 o'clock, of course a king cannot eat. So obviously we're talking about at the end of the day, it's already asur. So what's the big chiddush? The same shoys like grivas karba shoys they done, dummy. Kamash malot. So I would think, look, he's a king, so his 2:30 over here is like that's when he eats breakfast. He's going to be starving by the time night comes. What's the problem? The problem is you're not going to be hungry. Kings get hungry. Look, they're used to eating breakfast later than us. We get hungry. We could eat breakfast over here somewhere at 4. And Mamela, by the time night comes, we're starving. A king is starving before it, maybe. Kamash malon, not. So anyways, you see from here that we're not talking about a concept of maybe you'll forget to do a Korban Pesach. We're talking about a concept of eating and being nimshach into the time that you shouldn't be nimshach. Omer B'yosi. Avo matbelu b'mini targima. What could you eat Erev Pesach? So we know. This is based on this Gemara. You could have different, as the art school calls it, refreshments, such as fruit, vegetables, meat, things that don't satisfy you completely. So by the time the Seder comes around, you'll be hungry for the matzah. Rabbi Yitzchak matbul b'yarkei. So it seems like over here, he used to use vegetables. And why vegetables? Shmuel brings because that will increase his appetite. It was bedafki, not that he was b'di'eved, he was starving, he didn't know what to do. He opened up the fridge, he found one of those J&J yogurts. There's nothing to eat there. You know what I'm talking about? No, he ate vegetables because that opens up his stomach. What are you smiling? You don't know what J&J yogurt is. Those little cheesecakes, the cheese, right? The Mahadran cheesecake, exactly. There's nothing in the fridge, nothing, zero. All the chocolates piled up, all those finger stuff. What are they called? The lady fingers. Oh, no, it's not lady finger anymore. I'm sorry. Erase. Human fingers, whatever they're called now. Person fingers. The shamish would, now dunking. What's this dunking business? Matbil. Because in those days, everything was dunked. They had this little dish in front of them, and whatever they had a vegetable, they dunked, and then they ate. So he would take the intestines that he had from other korbanos, other things that he was able to eat, the shamish, and he would give it out. You should plow, make a furrow in the ground, about tizru elakoitzim, and don't just seed the thorns. So once again, we have a machlokes, Rashi and his grandchild. So Rashi dibra maskal nir lechem nir. Rashi says shatem torchim tirchu b'davar shatem yicholim lehanis mimenu v'sham zeh sha'isik b'suda. This waiter, it's almost like about loisachsam shar b'dishay. He's sitting there serving all this delicious food and he's not going to eat. So, but the pasuk is basically saying, you eat, let him eat as he's serving. That's what Rashi says. The Rashbam on the bottom, if you look, like only 3 lines from the bottom. And he says this pshat of Yikabel HaMachal Shesuda Achar Kein L'Ta'avin, that by you plowing the field allows things to grow. So by you putting in food, putting these intestines, will allow you to be hungry, will increase your appetite. And Rashi said, the Ram says, look at this. V'Rabbeinu Shloimo's Kaini Perisha Kain. My grandfather, Rabbeinu Shloimo, said so. And here's the shaila. I want to see if anybody's paying attention. It's a test. How was Rabbeinu Shmuel, the Rashbam, the grandchild of Rashi? Ben Achar Ben or not?
Rashi didn't have sons.
Oh, very good. Rashi didn't have any sons, so it was his grandmother. Yishkoyach. Have a wonderful day. What?
Don't let me explain why I say what I say. You just say.
Make you look like an idiot. Chas v'sholem.
Because tea in England, for example, is chamamadina, and coffee. It depends what kind of coffee. If it's a novelty coffee, it's not going to be chamamadina. That coffee that you show, I don't know, maybe it's special, maybe it's not special. If it's not special, you're right. To me, it looks like a special kind of coffee.
If it's special, it's worse.
If it's special, it's not. If it's not,
chamamadina, do they serve it as?
It's not. If it's just a special coffee, that's not a regular coffee. It's not. Depends what kind of coffee it is. If it's stock and taster's choice, then it is chamamadina.
Why?
That's a regular coffee. That's the coffee everyone drinks. It depends on what.
No, it's not everybody drinks. It has to have a chashivas to da the rabbi. It has to have a chashivas at a meal. At a meal. Do people serve it at a meal? At a suda? At a chasana?
Yes. What are they serving at chasana? Serving coffee.
No, it could be beans. It could be lattes.
But not even fancy brand.
There's such a thing as what's a fancy brand? Give me.
I don't know. To me, I don't
It's all the same.
I don't know that brand.
This is just a regular brand. This is nothing. This is just the taster's choice, just made in Mexico.
Yes. Say, but
This is just, I didn't have coffee at home. This is just a regular coffee.
if it's a regular brand, so then yeah.
Ein Hanami. By the way, every
Today, you cannot do it.
you can't use coffee.
You can't use
Rosh Hashanah- oh, you can't use Chamar Medina, but that's only based on that's only according to the Chazon Ish. But the Rabbi Yasher says that Chamar Medina is depending on what you serve at a wedding.
Yeah, but if you have grape juice and wine.
I'm sorry, I've been at many weddings. I don't
In
see
America,
them serving
in America, every wedding they would run around. Sure. On a plane they serve coffee. Plane. I'm saying in every wedding I made, we serve coffee. Every single wedding, 100%. In Eretz Yisrael, they serve a berekes, yishkoyach. What do you?
Yes, but they don't serve
It doesn't matter, even if it's called Chamar Medina today.
in America.
Shkoyach.
In America,
Don't come tomorrow, so you don't have a chazaka. Be careful.
Even if it is Chamar Medina, today you have grape juice and wine. You're not allowed to use Chamar Medina. It's only email.
That's what the Chazon Ish says.
Everybody, Mr. also says that.
No, but the Rabbi Yashiv says that there's another point here.
What?
That if they serve it at weddings at Sudas, then it becomes Chamar Medina.
So what?
but they don't serve it.
I'm telling you what he says.
I agree. It's Chamar Medina. Chamar Medina you could use only if you don't have wine.
I would say Coke is a lot
No,
more.
you see, Rav said that I'm using beer.
Coke is a lot more weddings than coffee. I mean, there's no comparison.
No, but Coke is all water. That's what they say. They say it's water. It's water with sugar.
Maybe in America, coffee would be considered that. You don't see it. It's not something which is a thing. You can't make a blanket statement like that. That's what I say. Why did I say tea? Because in England or China, maybe, tea is mamish.
I know.
No, but you said it's not, but it is. That's much.
No, I'm just repeating over from these Gdolim. Every single thing, that's why I said it changes by the minute. It changes by the year. It used to be 10 years ago, beer was chashiv. Today it's not. So when Reb Shlomo Zalman wrote it, he wrote tea is no. Today it is.
That you drink in England, let's say, that's the Chamar Medina.
And they would give that out at a wedding, Mistama. Yes. Yeah, I think I mentioned it. I said afterwards, these guys, I made fun of the English guys. I wasn't making fun. Achman. You have to have wide plates if you're going to sit here.
I'm happy to say things, but I have to be able to clarify. Otherwise, I end up looking stupid.
You did not look stupid. Oh, you know when you look stupid, the other thing, they argued on the Gemara.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What did they say there? I forgot what it was. I got to say hello to these guys. They're waiting for me. What? What happened?